Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil going here. If you can vote early, and almost everyone in the world has, if you're voting, voting early is the thing. So, just a little encouragement vote VOT, the uterine T, E for Emil, of course. VOTE, vote. This is our election eve, not necessarily special, just our election eve show. Welcome to it. I'm Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout, my Emil Amok's takeout. And on election eve, I'm going to be doing something special tonight. And if you're in San Francisco, please check out the Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street, right there in the heart of the Mission where I grew up. And I'm going to be telling a story from my Emil Amok monologues, my Amok Monologue 69. Check it out. Focusing on trans dad. What does that mean, Emil? Well, you'll just have to go. And then, of course, I'll talk a little bit about the election because it's on everyone's mind if they feel free to talk. That's the thing. If people feel free to talk, because so many times people don't feel free to talk. People feel free to say, I don't like, both people are not great. How many times have you heard that? I don't really like either of them, but no, but it's not like you're comparing Brussels sprouts to castor oil. And Brussels sprouts are pretty good if you have enough garlic and soy sauce. So it's not like comparing an enema with castor oil. I mean, there's like, oh, well, what do I like better? I mean, clearly there is a better. No matter how little regard you hold both candidates. And that seems to be where we're at. We're in this 50-50 world, 50-50 America, 50-50 democracy. And tomorrow, you can change things. I mean, because I know you guys are talking about it. I know people are talking about it. In their hearts, they know they got to do something. And this is the time to do something. So I dropped my latest column on Substack Emil Amok's Takeout, also on patreon.com/Emil Amok. And basically, we're talking about this anxiety we're feeling, right? Oh, before I go on, tonight, I mentioned that. I'm at the Marsh, 1062 Valencia, and in San Francisco. And if you're not in San Francisco, you can check it out on the stream. I think they're streaming it. If you go to the website, you can get tickets at themarsh.org, themarsh.org/Monday-night-Marsh-stream. And the beauty about that is you can go buy your tickets. All the proceeds go to the Marsh. I love the Marsh. They're a wonderful place. They give me a space where I can go work out. I love it. All right. So all proceeds go to the Marsh. Sliding scale, pay what you want. But the good thing about this is if you can't make it to the Marsh because you're in Hawaii, you're in the East Coast, you're somewhere, Mars, and you didn't know they had, free internet on Mars. See, now if you're on Mars, you'd know that. But wherever you are, if you're not in San Francisco, you can go to that site at themarsh.org/Monday-night-Marsh-stream. And if you go down to the middle, you can get I think they say they're streaming it. I don't know. It's free. Check it out. I'm doing a 20-minute excerpt from my Amok Monologue 69. Like you have Faux or Fa 55, Fa 78. I got Emil Amok 69. And we'll talk about it later. But I do a 20-minute excerpt. November 4th, election eve. And then I come back on the 18th and I do, by the 18th, we should know our fate. So we'll know if it's a comedy, if this show I'm doing, Emil Amok 69, is ultimately a tragedy or a comedy. Can't say it's too close. It is too close to call, right? That is too cliche to mention, but it is too close to call. So if you have election anxiety, I have some tips on how to deal with this election. I call it mindful democracy. Try it. Try some mindful democracy, then vote for history. Because whatever happens is going to be historic. It's going to be historic. Either it's the first Asian American, first African American woman to be president, first woman, period, to be president, or it's the first person held liable for sexual assault, twice impeached, voted in as president in order to avoid criminal prosecution on a variety of charges, already known as CFDT 34, criminal felon Donald Trump, 34 counts. We'll see. I mean, he's running for his life, literally, to stay out of jail. It's going to be historic. So I understand the anxiety. Here's what you should do. First of all, breathe. You know, here's a breathing technique. If you breathe through the left nostril, you'll like rile up all the nitric oxide in your nose hairs. It'll go up. It'll like dilate your blood vessels, the appropriate blood vessels. So you breathe in on the inside, left nostril. You breathe out on the right nostril. Exhilarating. So breathe. And then if you haven't yet, please vote. You know, really, there's still time. And if you're hearing this and it's November 5th, today's the 4th. If you're listening to this by November 5th, there's still time. You can do a provisional ballot. You can walk in some states, cast a write-in provisional ballot. You can actually cast a ballot, register the same day in some states. Wherever you're listening to me, check out your registrar of voters, your Secretary of State's office, and find out what the law is. Because in California, where I am, even if you haven't registered, you could register it on the very same day, provisionally, and then vote provisionally. It goes in a separate pot, but those votes will be counted. So there's still time. Breathe, vote. And before you vote, turn off the media, turn off the internet for a period. Not me, because you want to listen to me. You want to get the skinny from me. But turn things off. Be quiet. Do nothing. And not because much of the media can't be trusted, but because you already know all you need to know. You already know all you need to know to cast your vote. So cast it already. I mean, what are the questions? Is Trump really a fascist who'd compromise democracy, round up the undocumented, and put some of us in camps? The answer to that is yes. It's yes. Is Kamala Harris capable of leading the country in a new positive direction to improve the economy for regular middle-class people? The answer there is yes. She's qualified. If at this point you're still undecided, it's clear. Another soundbite from a Trump or Harris rally isn't necessary. It's not. Breathe. Vote. Over the weekend, speaking of the latest and greatest, Trump expressed regrets that he left the White House without a fight, even though there was no proof the 2020 election was rigged against him or stolen. He was saying, oh, I shouldn't have left. Oh, yeah. The regrets of a would-be dictator, right? Trump even said he wouldn't mind shooters going after the media. He actually said that. And as a media person who stood on those stages, you know, with those shaky cameras, because you're on a platform with a zoom lens pointed at the subject, I took offense. Trump said, to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much. That's what he said at a rally in North Carolina. People laughed. They laughed. That's like Trump giving approval or giving the idea and approval, people saying, yeah, right on. To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much. Unbelievable. They laughed. And all this comes after Trump's statements against the conservative GOP leader, Liz Cheney, or really former leader. She's still highly regarded by some, but she left all her, she had to leave all her leadership positions. And she formed a coalition with Harris. You remember what Trump said to Tucker Carlson? She's a radical hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels together. 9 barrels together. You know what that is? Firing squad. Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. The guns trained on her face. They're scoped in. That's a threat. That's a threat. And then Trump called Cheney a stupid person, just as he continues to call Harris. They're all stupid. If you don't agree, or if you don't believe in Trump, they're all stupid. So take Trump's threats of violence seriously. He keeps talking about the enemy from within. It's not just the undocumented immigrants or people like me who could be mistaken for one. Trump's enemies list is real, and it includes anyone who dares speak out against him. Fight back now with the biggest weapon you have, your vote. But if you're still on the fence, and some of you are, according to Pew Research, there are still about 13% of the electorate who can change their mind or are leaning but not committed to one candidate or another just yet. 13%. It's kind of split up, 4, that's 8. And then 2.5, among those who aren't committed to anyone just yet. But 4 say, yeah, I want this person or I want that person, but they admit to be willing to be changed. Is that you? Are you one of the 13%? Then I suggest mindful democracy. I'm reminded by the late monk Thich Nhat Hanh, the venerable Buddhist peace and social justice activist, who was nominated for the Nobel Prize in 1967 by no less than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thich Nhat Hanh taught me how to breathe and keep breathing for love, for gratitude, for peace. In 1967, a Nobel Peace Prize wasn't awarded. So it really was a big deal just to be nominated that year, especially by Dr. King. In the recommendation letter for Thich Nhat Hanh, then an activist against the Vietnam War, Dr. King said, I do not personally know of anyone more worthy than this gentle monk from Vietnam. His ideas for peace, if applied, would build a monument to ecumenism. Okay, you got the word. World brotherhood and humanity. And what were his ideas? To be in the present moment where life is, deeply. To let go of the past. To not fret about the future. To just be in the now, to experience a true calming sense of self. And perhaps just to be and not to think. A simple notion, but one that could enable you later in a new moment to think about your situation and make the best possible decisions in your life for you and for others. Thich Nhat Hanh called it being and living free. When you are free from anger, fear, hate, the past, the future, and then you can make the best kind of decision. That's how you know you're ready to cast your vote in this historic election. Think about not just your place in society, but others too. Don't think about just what a vote might do for you. Think about others, the impact on others. Positive, negative, maybe there's a net positive. Oh, they cut taxes on billionaires. Is that going to mean a positive for you? Well, we know from trickle down, no. What would be better? Taxing the billionaires? Giving tax breaks to the middle class? Yeah, that sounds better. How about tariffs? 20% tariff on China? Would that be good? Well, not if China passes on that 20% cost onto you in form of a sales tax. That's likely to happen. At least 16 Nobel laureate economists believe that and think that Trump's economic plan would be inflationary. And then there's some basic questions like, can you vote for a lying Trump who is vengeful and self-aggrandizing and who would deport your brother, your sister, your mother if they weren't full citizens? Who is the candidate who is looking for a real solution to our immigration problems? And who, on the important economic issues, is speaking for all the people, the fortunate and the less fortunate? Do a 2-word mantra. Concentrate on your breath. On the in-breath, say vote. On the out-breath, say democracy. Vote. Democracy. Vote. Democracy. Follow it up with a breath. Then take action. You know, I'm thinking back to a week ago. Kamala Harris gave her closing argument, or began the closing argument tour, because she's going on from city to city. She's primarily in Pennsylvania now. She was on the Ellipse, DC Ellipse last week. She drew 75,000 people. And I'm surprised Donald Trump didn't make a big deal about it, because it was much bigger than Donald Trump's crowd in 2021 when he urged his followers to commit an act of insurrection. Harris mentioned January 6th, but she didn't have to, because we all know that's when Donald Trump showed Americans how little he cares about the country and our democracy, when he stood back and watched the violence he instigated on TV. 6 people, including 1 police officer, died because of that day. 174 police were among the injured. Trump dishonored the presidency and doesn't deserve your vote. A Trump ad running on TV says, Donald Trump will keep us safe. Don't count on it. At the Ellipse, Harris once again talked about how Trump has an enemies list and how she, in service to all voters, has a to-do list. Voters should make your own list, comparing Harris and Trump. Check it twice. Here's mine. She's an Asian American like me, born in the Bay Area, from middle-class Oakland. He, privileged, white, from Silver Spoon, New York. She's a former top cop and prosecutor. He's a convicted felon, 34 counts. She's been a DA, AG, U.S. Senator, and Vice President. She's held all those offices, all elected, more than qualified to lead our country. He was the unqualified winner of the presidency in 2016 and has been deemed by historians as the worst, most ill-informed, and stupidest president in U.S. history. She has received the endorsement of the president she hopes to replace. Trump has a majority of his top allies, including his former vice president, voting against him. She wants to work with Republicans toward building a real consensus. Trump doesn't know what that word means, and wants to use the military to round up those who disagree with him, the enemy within. But maybe the most shocking comparison: Kamala Harris is not a fascist nor a would-be dictator. Trump says he'd be a dictator on day one. And now his former chief of staff, General John Kelly, says Trump fits the definition of a fascist who has praised Hitler and said the Nazi leader did some good things. He did not do good things. Who is better to be the next president of the United States? You know the answer already. And yet, the surprising thing is we're still tied. We're still in this 49, 48, 48, 47 kind of world. Virtual tie. And it was all the latest opinion polls. And a tie would suggest that, oh, they're so alike, there's no discernible difference between the two. But we know that isn't true. The one big difference, a poll that came on Saturday night for the Des Moines Register. You might have heard people talk about it. I started hearing it on Saturday night. I was coming back from a comedy show. I went to see my dear friend Will Durst, who's back on stage after recovering from a stroke. He looked good. Will was good. He was funny. And I went up afterwards and hugged him. Then I went back over the bridge and I heard people talking about this Des Moines Register poll. You know, recently I talked to one of my in-laws who's a Trump voter. And I asked him about all the negative, hateful things coming out of Trump. From fascist to Hitler to all the garbage talk the past 10 days. His response, has it moved the needle? I mean, my brother-in-law should know better. But on Saturday, that Iowa poll moved the needle. Instead of a 1 point plus or minus, Harris is up 3 points among likely voters in Iowa. And it was like a sign, the first sign that the gender gap was having a real impact. You've heard about the gender gap. You know, it's going to be a boy-girl race. Whoever's going to vote, women tend to vote more. Not just the college-educated, but even the non-college women. And this is the thing. The critics were quick to point out that it could be due to an oversampling of Democrats or women, especially senior women, those 65 plus. But it was the first poll to really pick up on a factor, a hidden group that was maybe left out of this year's polling models, in the same way that the 2016 polls were off and underestimated Trump support. Remember that? No one knew Trump had all that support. The pollsters weren't sampling in the people who were holding their opinions tight close to their vest. And they came out and vote, and it totally surprised the pollsters in 2016, the Hillary Clinton election or non-election. This time, the gap looks more real than anyone thought, the gender gap. Driven by Trump's anti-reproductive rights stand, the signs indicate an historic male-female voter gap that could sway the election. And it figures. It always figured, but now the data is not just dribbling in, it's a flood. In Iowa, women aged 65 and older were for Harris by 2-1. Harris won independent women by a 28-point margin. Okay, that's Iowa. But another poll showed the gap nationwide. Among all voters, Harris is up 11 points among women. Trump is up 5 points among men, according to an ABC Ipsos poll. Harris getting more women by 6 points may be enough to give her the race. And the gap is more pronounced among independent women, who are 18% more for Harris. Trump is only 4 points up with men. That gap, Harris up for men or up for women, Trump up for men, that gap is enough votes to put Harris over the top. Among young voters, Harris gets 40% more women. Trump is only up 5% with the men. Now, the gap could sink Trump because he's relying on these young male low propensity voters, they're called, trying to get them off the Xbox and move toward the ballot box. That may have been a bad strategy if women turn out en masse. And these polls are indicators. And you might say people are trying to put down the Des Moines, Iowa poll, but the pollster for the Des Moines Register, she knows her stuff. Historically, she's not off. And she called all the races in the past. She has a sense about her state. Does she know the nation? Does she know the temperature of women nationwide? I think that ABC Ipsos poll indicates that there's something there. Women are upset. They don't seem to take to Trump's coarseness in his bro campaign approach. And Trump could have apologized these last 10 days. He could have, given it the wine and roses treatment to the women, but he hasn't. You had that Madison Square Garden event that launched a nasty joke about Puerto Rico as floating garbage. And Trump called that event a love fest, an absolute love fest. Of course, he called January 6th, the insurrection, a love fest. He did say he would protect all women within the last 10 days. He said, I'm going to protect the women. But then he added a repulsive phrase, whether they like it or not. I know, is he protecting them or is he, force feeding them? Sounds like a guy found liable for sexual assault in the E. Jean Carroll case, which he was. Trump adds to his delusions by calling Harris the candidate of hate, which makes you begin to understand and maybe sympathize. The man is not well. Certainly, we've seen enough to break the ire or to break the tie. I'm looking at this. Did I say ire or tie? To break the tie. At the Ellipse last Tuesday night, Harris talked about pleading to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better. She tied it into the vision of, quote, those united in our pursuit of freedom and our belief in fairness and decency, our faith in a better future, America. When does Trump talk like this? Or when does he talk like this? America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. That was Harris in her appeal to undecided voters at the Ellipse. It doesn't have to be this way. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. The locking arm bit, that's a whole civil rights image. I get that. I heard that. That resonated with me. Look, if you haven't already voted or aren't registered, you can still vote and register on Election Day in California and in many other states. Check your Secretary of State's webpage for details on deadlines. Move the needle. Take a deep breath. Be mindful of others in our society and vote for history. And this being Election Eve, I'm performing an excerpt from my Emil Amok monologues, Trans Dad. Tonight, November 4th, all new. It's not anything from here. And then November 18th, I'll come back. We'll find out if it's a comedy or tragedy. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they're going to count tomorrow, and you know what's at stake. If Donald Trump loses, he'll probably face some jail time. He won't be able to get rid of all the cases that have been suspended or on hold. And so why is he going to North Carolina? He's mostly in North Carolina. He's got to be in Pennsylvania. They put Elon Musk there. Elon Musk. Kamala Harris is in Pennsylvania. And I will say this. Everyone says it. I'll say it too. It's all Pennsylvania. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins. Because Kamala Harris can, if she loses Pennsylvania, she has another route. She can get to 270. But that means she's got to win Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada. Maybe Arizona. A lot easier. One state. You win. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins it. And I'm not the first one to say, oh, she didn't pick Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. That would have given it to her. She picked Walz, but there was probably some other calculus involved. I imagine an anti-Semitic backlash against Josh Shapiro was one of them. But I don't know how, if you ask Harris now, she probably wouldn't tell you the truth. But if she had Josh Shapiro next to her, not just in ads, who knows? Anyway, November 4th tonight and the 18th, 7 p.m. at the Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street. Check it out. Go to themarsh.org/Monday-night-marsh-stream. And even if you're somewhere else and just want to stream it for free, it's free. The tickets, get tickets, go in person. I do my 20-minute bit. It's great. We say hi. If not, check out the stream. Hope to see you tonight at the Marsh. All right. So the big thing, I talked about Pennsylvania. I talked about the Marsh. The women. Oh, man, the women. I wonder, for a while, the whole abortion debate just sort of was on simmer. And I guess it was when women started dying and you started seeing reports. In ProPublica, there was a woman in Texas who died. There was a woman, I believe she was in Georgia. Was it Georgia who died? I mean, when women started dying because they weren't getting these procedures, because doctors were too scared of doing something that would be deemed illegal. I think that's resonating. Now, some people have mentioned, oh, that Puerto Rico is floating garbage. That resonated too, but not. I don't think. Maybe it may be enough to swing some Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania because there's a big Puerto Rican enclave there. That would help Harris because that's for real. That feeling is for real. But I think the woman thing, if she outdoes Donald Trump with women, well, she's going to do that. But if she gets more women than Trump gets more men, like if Trump is like up 10 men, but Harris is up 15, up 20, up 30 women, she wins, especially if that vote tally is in Pennsylvania. If she wins Pennsylvania, she wins. Now, I was at a thing on Saturday night, and my friend was all hyped up. She said, I'm going to Reno. I'm going to canvass. Canvass? Yeah, I'm going to knock on doors. You got to get the vote out. However way you can. And whoever you vote for, I just have people vote. I'll give you my opinion, but now it's up to you to vote. Do the meditative thing. Be mindful in your vote. Who does it hurt? Who does it help? Does it hurt help just you? Can it help others? If it can help others, now you're mindful. Now your vote is powerful. I mean, that's the way. I mean, I talked to another one, found out another woman, friend of the family. She went out to do something, to canvass or something. She found like 3 homeless people, said, hey, help me file this. How do I do this? So she helped them. There was another person. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's a person-to-person thing, voting. Democracy it's a hand-to-hand democracy. helping people. Look, I think voting is complicated. And, people need ballots in translation. It's hard stuff. Got to make it easier. And now, thank goodness we have a paper trail, because that's what gives the election its integrity. But tomorrow, one step at a time. Today you decide to vote. Tomorrow you vote. Tomorrow night we count, and we count, and we count, and we be still and do nothing, because there will be anger. There will be people who will not be satisfied, who will start throwing accusations and conspiracies, and you got to watch out for those people, because they aren't trying to help the system. Let's sit back, watch the count. I'd say we may not know a winner. I mean, I remember the California, when the Newsom race for governor against Larry Elder took weeks. It's California. But it was obvious that Elder didn't have a chance. But to get to all the votes, it took weeks. But we just have to hope that, and we already know from polls, only 30-40% believe that Donald Trump will peacefully accept the results, win or lose. Of course, he'll accept if he wins, but if he loses, he's going to fight tooth and nail. And even then, we must be calm. As they said on SNL, be Kamala. Be Kamala in that event. That was funny. She was funny. She was funny on SNL. So we be mindful, be voting, breathe. If you need to feel good about something, think of the gender gap. Think of Iowa. I think that's happening. Does it extend nationwide? Let's hope. Let's hope. If we want the best outcome for us. Now, some people say, "Oh, Emil, you're biased. You're so bad." I'm not biased. I'm biased for our democracy. I'm biased for, I guess, for when it comes to people of color. But people know, you make your own list. You know what's best. And you know what? Whatever happens, I am going to live with that. I'm going to live with that. Donald Trump should too. All right. So that's it for our show. WDAAAT, what does an Asian American think? Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. We do this. And check out Patreon for the after party. No after party today, but go to the after party that me and Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez do. You got to go to patreon.com/Emil Amok to get that. Join and get that and other goodies. My column is there as well. And also my column's on Substack. Substack.com/@Emil Amok. So yeah, it's all there on the screen. And patreon.com/Emil Amok. So told you about the march tonight. Looking forward to that. And looking forward to seeing who's out there. Today's just election eve. Tomorrow's the real day. Tomorrow, oh man. It's going to rain in some spots. But it should be exciting. This is the exciting thing about people voting. And it should be, we don't know who's going to win. It should be kind of suspenseful in this way. I think. It makes it more entertaining. We don't want democracy to be that entertaining. But It makes people watch. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, forget the polar coaster, forget all that. But, that's the measure of the public sentiment, at least for a time. And then you see how the pattern evolves, and it gets people involved in ultimately the deeper things, the deeper matters, the issues. Let's hope. There's a lot of first-time voters, and people see the consequences. And I hope that even though we don't know if the male voters are going to show up, Donald Trump hopes the male voters show up, but many people might just say, yeah, I'm for him, but I'm not going to show up. Or I'm for her, I'm not going to show up. This is the big issue. You got to show up. You got to show up this time. This time. This time. All right. Thank you very much. So checking me out on Patreon. I'll sneak in a couple laughter yoga bits. Laughter yoga helps. I'm telling you. And you say, oh, what is laughter yoga? It's just it's just intentional laughter. Is it intentional laughter? Yeah, I'm laughing at you. Emil, that's not funny. No, that's not the point. The point is laughter is exercise. It gets the air in and out of your body, it gets the endorphins and all the different chemicals going through your brain, buzzing, get you energetic, get you through the day. And as a certified laughter yogi, I can tell you, laughter yoga works. You just have to be intentional in your laughter. It's not the unintentional laughter of laughing at a stand-up comedian who, if they bomb you, just like staring. Oh, that was a Trump joke. Oh, yeah. But if you're going to buy into it and do the voluntary laughter, huge belly laugh from the diaphragm, up and out the air, the oxygen in your brain, feeling good. Laughter yoga was started in 1995 by Madan Katarian, doctor, a real doctor, medical doctor in Mumbai. And from 6 people, it grew to now there are thousands of people all around the world who become laughter yogis like me. Certified. I'm a certified laughter yogi. Intentional laughter is important. Get some in your life. All you got to do is think of me and laugh. It works. Helps calm you down too. It helps relieve the anxiety that you might feel from the election. And if you're still feeling anxiety, check out my column on Substack at Emil Amok's Takeout. Also on Patreon. Go to it. Be there. Thank you for joining me. This whole thing about mindful democracy. I think about it. I went to Thich Nhat Hanh because he taught me about breath and thinking about democracy, vote, democracy. In breath, vote, out breath, democracy. In breath, vote, out breath, democracy. Calms you down. Think of that vote. Think of that breath. Think of democracy. Think of what's at stake. And it's a calming thing. Relieves you the anxiety. It works. And then let's watch the count and see what happens. Because whatever happens, if the country is resilient, there will be an answer. There will be an answer. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we will have an answer. Because this is America. And so, one thing, Tone down the hate. Tone down, because the hate vibe is out there from Donald Trump. Can't fight hate with more hate. Fight it with more love. How do you do that, Emil? Well, easy. You think of other people. You don't just think of yourself. You send the love first to others, comes back twofold. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Get out there and vote if you haven't yet, you early voters. Hey, it's the thing. It's the rage. If not, tomorrow's election day. Don't forget, if you're in states like California, you can register to vote the same day and vote the same day. It goes into the provisional pile, but you can cast a ballot. You can vote. Go to it. Emil Amok here. Till next time.